Hi, I'm Peggy with Newcastle Trails, and this is a tool safety video. Come on with me and I will show you the tools, how to use them, and how to put them down, which is very important. This is a tool cache. We have tarps over the tools. The tarps are supposed to be positioned so that they do not get puddles in them. Sometimes they collapse a little bit and we have to redo them, but we don't really want puddles there because sometimes it gets a little wet underneath. And we want those tools dry. I like to carry the tools in a wheelbarrow because I have to go down the trail usually to get to where I need to use them. Here's a tool cache with the tools laid out. I try to make sure that they're in a position where I can get at them reasonably easily. And I will show you the rest of the tools individually. Make sure you bring plenty of water because if it's really hot, you're going to need at least 2 liters. Let's say it's 80 degrees or above, you better have 2 liters with you. This is a pick mattock. This is the mattock end and this is the pick end. When you're carrying it, always down at your side. Never carry it over your shoulder because it's too easy to catch your head. Almost no tool should ever be carried over the shoulder. I'll show you how to use it. We happen to have a nice handy blackberry right over here. You're aiming carefully, and to do that you don't want to try to swing way back generally. You just make sure that you loosen the soil well around it, and I can see that that's getting pretty loose. So I can then just pull it out, roots and all. And here is the corm. If you want to get rid of blackberries, you get rid of the corm, it won't grow back. This can also be used for digging out rocks, for loosening the soil, and so you can get the roots out. You pry with it like that, and you can see it got the root out. And if you're going to be hacking away at rock, that's a separate video. Okay. These are cultivator rakes, and they're getting really hard to find. I'd love to be able to find more of these 6-inch tine ones, so if anybody knows where to find a good strong one, that would be wonderful. This is what I was able to find lately, and it's a lot smaller and not nearly as strong, but it still works, so I will show how to do that. What you want to do is grab the organics off the top and just either throw them behind you or you can put them in a bucket. Either way works. So this clears the surface. You can chop with this. If you need to get behind a rock or something like that, it's okay to chop with this one. When putting a rake down, make sure you put it tines down, solid, sturdy. So if anybody accidentally kicks it or falls on it, they won't get hurt. So often I find them lying like this, and that is scary. Make sure that when you're putting a tool in the tool cache, the handles are over here, the handle of the tool is facing away from you. Never ever put it this way and try to go anywhere because you're liable to get stabbed somewhere. Okay, this is a lopper. I use it to lop usually roots, small branches, things like that. This one is actually a very good one. It'll cut quite a large amount pretty efficiently. This is a large root, let's say, sticking out, and it's way too big to be able to pull out with your hand. So in order to save your fingers, you take the lopper and just lop it off like that and toss the rest. This is a heavy-duty ratchet lopper, very expensive. Be very careful not to try to cut anything around a rock because we don't want to try to cut a rock with it. It'll dull it really badly. But it does have a ratchet in it. You open it by opening the handles all the way, and then you put it around whatever you're going to cut and keep moving the handle back and forth till it clicks. And eventually you'll get all the way through a pretty hefty one. I'm sure everybody knows what a saw is, so I'm not going to tell you exactly how to use that. But I am going to mention we do not want to saw rocks. So if you're down near the ground, make sure that what you're sawing is well away from the ground itself. Even if you have to dig a big hole, you lift it up and you can saw like this. And that will make sure that whatever you're sawing, you're not getting the saw on the dirt or try to saw rocks over here. That's not a good idea. When you put it down, just flat is fine. Here's a shovel. Everybody knows what that is, I presume. So after you're through doing your shoveling, make sure when you put it down, it's upside down and stable. You don't want somebody to step on it and get hurt. And if you put it this way, then somebody could step on it and get a bad whack. This is called a pick scoop. Here's the scoop end. You can see it's hollowed out a little bit. And the smaller pick end. This is handy to loosen roots and soil in a small area where you don't need a pickmatic, or maybe there's no room for a pickmatic between roots or rocks. And it's used pretty much the same way. But you have to be careful. This is strong, this is not. So don't try to chop with this hard because it'll break right off. And when you put it down, on its side works great. This is a McLeod. It's a firefighting tool invented by someone named McLeod, M-C-L-E-O-D. And to use it, you want to use it to scrape things off the surface, which is what a firefighter would do. You scrape all the organics off the surface. And it's a very effective tool for that. But it does not get the roots out. And so for tool use, as far as trail building, it's a good idea to use it only for the surface and then use other tools to dig in and get roots out. And another thing to think about, there's one bolt holding this thing, holding the head on. So you don't want to try to chop with it or use it very hard because it won't hold up. This is a Pulaski. It has a chopping end as sort of like an axe and a mattock end. And for this, it's handy for that angle to use it to lop off whatever you want to hit where it's going to go in the ground. You don't want to use an axe for that. This is duller than an axe, but it'll do much the same thing, and it doesn't hurt it if it goes in the ground and hits a rock, as long as you don't do it too hard. Okay, this is a maul, and this can come in handy if you have a large rock to get out of the way, but one that you don't want to save to use on the low side. These rocks, that's our native conglomerate. It has a few little hard ones in it, just incorporated inside, but what's in the middle and holding everything together, sort of, is really rotten rock. One thing you don't want to do is, again, hold it way behind you. That's a bad idea. For one thing, when it lands, just like the pickmatic, it could break your wrist if you do it too hard. It's weighted, so it'll do the most good with the least damage to you if you pretty much just let the weight carry it down. As you can see, our native rock is not very strong. This is a pry bar. It has an end that can be used to dig in and get a little bit of traction, although not a lot. And this end is pointy, so it can force its way into something that you may need to try to just stab to get it out of the way. Or you can use it sometimes in the soil if there are a lot of rocks in there that are pretty big and hard, and you want to get them out of there, and you can't do it with a pickmatic. So you just force it down and try to pry it along. This one is going uphill, so it's not going to go very far, but that's just a demonstration. When you're carrying a pry bar, you want to make sure you keep it down at your side, and you can walk it along like this. I put this wedge end first. That way you don't end up have a pointy end going wherever you're going. Buckets are a multi-use tool. One thing you can do to speed things up a little bit is when you want to clear, you just scoop things right in the bucket after lying it down, and that way you can get a lot in a hurry and then dump it wherever you want to put it. And we make a decision on where that's going to be to make the trail as neat as possible. Another thing you can use the bucket for is to cover something you don't want to get wet. And when you put it down, always put it on its side unless it's keeping something dry, because that way it won't get water inside it and have it just sitting there. This is a broom. It was invented a long time ago by all kinds of people to sweep dirt floors. And it works really well to get small pebbles off the trail that people might slip on, and any organics that are on it, so that you won't incorporate them into the trail bed. To put down the broom, it's good to put it carefully so that the bristles are not being crushed, and it'll hold pretty well if you have it way up on the hillside there, and nobody will trip over the handle. There we go. So that's the tool video, and I hope you learned something possibly and reminded you of a few things, and I'll see you later.